Welcome back to another episode of the Tipitina's Record Club podcast.
Yep, I'm Robert Mercurio.
Ben Ellman here.
This is a very special release to us because it's our record, believe it or not.
Yeah. We're going to talk about us.
Yeah.
No, we're not, because we have a great special guest today.
Yeah, well, this is the Galactic plus Irma Thomas record, Audience with the Queen. You all should have it by now. And we were thinking what would make sense besides just Ben and I talking to ourselves. So we thought that bringing in Sean Carey, who was lyricist on 7 of the 9 tracks, and giving a little background into how that went would be interesting, maybe?
Yeah. He was a huge part of this release and the process. And he is a great local musician who's worked with many artists in town as a producer, as a musician, as an instrumentalist.
Yeah, he did a great job. So we thought, give everybody a little insight into how that process went with him.
You might have noticed some new theme intro music.
Yeah, we got some new music. The previous theme song ended up getting used by Boyfriend in her new album, on a track on her new album, In the Garden, which is a really cool concept, Adam and Eve. Check it out on all your DSPs and wherever it is. But
very cool.
Yeah, it's a cool record. Ben and I love working with Boyfriend. Boyfriend actually was one of the writers on Puppet on Your String.
Love collabing with her.
Yeah, she's the best. So anyway, the pitch. Yeah, it's your turn.
Here's the pitch. I feel like it's always my turn.
It's always your turn.
Tipitina's Record Club is a vinyl subscription service. If you're not a member, please consider joining. We will mail you 3 or 6 albums throughout the year, all sort of based here and focused on Louisiana and Gulf South music. Some hidden gems, some reissues, some new recordings, and just curated by us over here at Number C Studios in New Orleans, Louisiana. And makes a great gift.
Yes, I think I always put in it makes a
That's
great
your
gift.
Part,
that
yeah.
is, because it really does. The gift that keeps on giving. So do you want to jump into it?
Yeah, let's not waste any time bringing in Mr. Sean Carey.
All right.
Welcome, Sean Carey.
Yeah.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Man? How was your Jazz Fest?
Good,
if people don't know, we're coming off of Jazz Fest right now.
Oh, yeah.
So
it was cool. Got to play a couple gigs at the festival. Went out to a lot of night gigs.
Who'd you play with at the fest?
I played with Ronnie Lamarck. And
What? You're in Ronnie Lamarck's band?
Yeah, 20.
Oh, dude, drop the mic right now. You're done. That's like reach the fucking. Let's
yeah,
go.
man. He has a 22-piece band. He brought a bunch of killers out there.
Damn.
But you're playing bass in the band?
No, on that I'm playing harmonica and singing.
Shit.
We should get into that too, man. How many instruments you play proficiently?
Well, what other bands did you
insane.
play? What other bands did you play?
I played with Mark Stone at the Blues Tent.
Oh,
Nice.
Cool. Bass?
Bass. Yeah, I played bass on that gig.
Cool. And we saw you out there the day we played with Irma.
Oh, yeah.
And we
That was
watched
fun.
Lenny Kravitz together, which was pretty badass.
Yeah, he still got it.
Damn.
Hit after hit, huh? It's like,
Dude.
bam. This one. Bam.
That
Oh,
man
yeah, this
doesn't
one.
age.
He's
right.
60. I looked it up. He's 60, like young 60s. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. We can
got
all
abs.
we can all hope.
He still got abs.
We can all hope.
He's a dad, and he
looked
has
that
abs.
good at his age, huh?
It is. I mean, it's amazing. And he just
Even with a
rocked it.
blouse on, he was still pulling it off.
That's about the only dude I know who could pull off the women's section of a department store. Yeah. But anyway, we wanted to get, we just put out this Irma record with Galactic, and you were such a huge part of it, helping with the songwriting and the lyrics. And, it was just, for me, like, how did you kind of get into the mind of Irma? Like, I think that was something that we noticed when we were reaching out to other songwriters. People were having a hard time really making it seem like it would be something that she would say.
And also the other songwriters, we should just say lyricists, weren't really
Lyricists,
from
yeah.
New Orleans, and all the stuff that they wrote were not. I'm not going to totally generalize, but a lot of it had that sort of cliche New Orleans imagery in there, like on a Creole moon eating a bowl of gumbo, and
Yeah.
under a
right,
hero in the French Quarter.
right. Well, I just try to look at it from, where is she at this point in her life? What's motivating her? And I feel like at this point it's just to get out and sing, you know?
True.
I imagine if I was in my 80s and I was still doing, you know, I was still singing, performing, it would be for the love of it. So I was trying to write from a perspective of like, how did she feel about it when she wakes up in the morning or whatever? When I said, I get up this morning, I guess I could sing for another day. I was thinking, I imagine that would be where I'm at, you know?
Yeah.
Be, you know, at that age, I'd be happy to be doing what I do and being alive and be able to sing and perform on stage. So I felt like that would probably be her, you know, main perspective, was to be grateful that she can still do it and she can still sing at that level. I'm sure she's grateful.
That song has my favorite line.
Where I Belong?
Yeah, on the whole record, which is, I've stepped on stage about 1 million times. I was in Paris drinking champagne when you were in diapers crying.
Yeah, right.
Did you
I
get
felt
that from her?
I felt like from her
That's so
perspective,
good.
she would have been happy to say that, like, yeah, I've been doing this,
Yeah,
and I'm the baddest. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It seems
And that she
so...
can tell all these youngins, like, you know, I know you're in your prime right now, but
This
I
is
was
where
in
I've
my
been.
prime at one point, and I was doing some big things, and I was representing New Orleans in the world of, you know, soul music and all that.
Yeah.
And I felt like she's got a certain like intensity too, that you could say some somewhat grandiose things, like I was sipping champagne and all that. And I felt like that was something that would embody her
Yeah.
presence, you know.
Yeah,
It's
coming
true.
from another voice, maybe it wouldn't feel as genuine, but it really does come from her.
But over 60 years in the business, you know, making
that's-
records, touring. It's like,
That's commendable, man.
yeah,
And I remember, like, you know, we were a couple songs in on the record, and we invited you over to one of the sessions to kind of like meet her, hang out with her.
Yeah,
And
that
what
was
did you get from
important.
that? You like talked to her and you know.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of intangible things that go on. You know, you just get a vibration, and you pick up on subtle nuances and tones of voice, and all that's important. And of course, to see her sing, her you know, inflections and the way she performs in the studio, it informs a little bit of how I look at what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more subtle than anything.
It wasn't like, oh, I took this one line from this thing she said. It was just kind of an overall.
No, it was like an
perspective.
energy thing, like a vibe, where I was like, okay, this is all information, subtle, you know, subtle things that I could take with me, just picking up on her character and joking around and seeing her kind of, you know, all right, I'll do another take or whatever. You know,
Yeah,
and just
she
being like,
wasn't always the easiest.
she's got a cool, sassy vibe. So I was like, okay, I can say things like champagne when you're in diapers. You know what I mean? It informs you just seeing her character in front of you. You know?
Yeah. It's interesting. We were discussing earlier, Ben and I, just remember that when we had to retool Love's Gonna Find a Way.
All right.
we'll give the backstory.
yeah,
on that.
so-
I've got angels and all that.
Yeah. So, yeah, the backstory was the song was Angels Over Me. I believe that was the original lyric, right?
Right.
When we
And it had
first
a very
presented it to her.
Christian gospel kind of presentation.
Which we thought,
Well, the chorus was, I've got angels watching over me.
nice,
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
And we thought, oh, this is a slam dunk. Like Irma's gonna love this tune, right?
Yeah. I was convinced. I was like, oh, this is
it.
in the bag.
This is like
and
totally
that's how
her.
you get surprised in the business. You know?
And then she, you know, comes back to us and is like, I won't do any gospel. And, you know, and we're like, what? You know, and then, you know, she explained it to us that you know, she can't have a gospel song also on the same, connected with the same recording as a secular song. If that song was a single on its own, she could sing it like that.
Right.
But if
she
it was,
said, we can record this song, but you can't put it on the album. You can make a 45 of it or put it on
Right.
another album, but this can't be on
Connected.
all these the album that we're making right
it was
here.
a very church and state approach. It was like, as
very-
long as
yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't compiled with the rest of the songs,
Yeah.
I'll
which is
allow.
odd, but I remember she was like, and I've been, you know, at this so long, I don't want to be that thing at the pearly gates that keeps me from getting in, you know? We were like, of course, Irma, you know.
Yeah, and I don't want to be connected to any
Could you imagine her
of
looking
that
down
either.
at us? They made me do, you know, so
Yeah,
so
talking-
interesting, you know, you had to rethink, you know, we love the song, we love that the lyrics, the melody, and I remember you were like, oh man, all right, now I have to like start from scratch again, and then you created another amazing song out of it, but what was your thought there?
Oh yeah, I'm sure you guys remember. I was like, oh really? Because that song had so much melodic and wordplay that was like I couldn't even listen to the song without those words coming up. So it was like I had to undo and erase. You know, I had to undo my inclination to talk about angels or whatever it was, so that I could allow some new concept to come into play. And I did huff and puff. I remember talking to Ben and just being like, God, man, really? It's so good.
I give you a little pep talk. You could do it,
It's not
Sean.
so much.
You could do it.
It's like you can, yeah, right. You definitely were like, bro, you got this. But it was the undoing and letting go of the other lyrics, but also understanding that I have to bring it like the other lyrics were.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have been happy, and we wouldn't have been happy unless it kind of measured up. We didn't want it to go down,
Right.
and just be like, oh, okay, we just, turned an A song into a B song kind of thing, A side to a B side kind of vibe. So I was like, all right, I got to bring it and reword it and turn it into a love song,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess it worked out, I'm
It
pretty
did.
happy with it.
I mean, it's a tough thing in songwriting in general, I think you have to sometimes rework, re-edit stuff over and over again, and you get something in your head one way, and it takes a real skill to remove yourself from the original idea, and you did a really good job of that. And just like, we think you did a great job here. I'm just wondering, in general, in your life, when did you kind of get into songwriting? When was like your first time where you were like, I can actually write a freaking song?
Man, I would say around 1999, 2000. I was living here, and I got a little Digio 1 set up. I don't know if you remember those. It's like the original home studio. But anyway, I got a home studio set up, and I just, started tracking guitar, bass, and putting some drum loops and some stuff. I was working with rappers, and but then I started writing hooks, and then I started writing full songs. And I did an EP. I did a whole record at one point, and I was even rapping on it. I was singing. I was just trying to do everything that I do. I put harmonica on it, bass, guitar. I was just trying to go crazy and be like, showcase everything for myself and see what I could do. And songwriting came out of that. I started writing lyrics and doing stuff like that. But in terms of writing lyrics for other people, this is the first time. That's pretty cool.
No way, really?
Yeah.
I thought you did some Soul Rebel stuff, right?
Well, I sung the hooks on those.
But you were...
what? No, I take it back. I did a song with the Soul Rebels, and P.J. Morton resung it. It was the hook, and then he kind of helped with the verses.
But you knew you weren't going to be like the singer on Soul Rebels tour. It was going to be for somebody else to sing at some point.
But I'm saying the majority of the things I did with them, I remained the vocalist on the record as a featured artist.
Right.
I'm talking in terms of writing for someone and them taking it into becoming their vocal.
Right. For you to embody, an 83-year-old queen of, soul queen of New Orleans, that's way different. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So that was a huge leap. It was like it speaks to the universal nature of music, is that there's always a common thread, and then all you got to do is lean a little bit towards her, talk about it from a female perspective or whatever, or a person who's been in the business longer and has a different, but there is a universal thread there that I can still say things that pertain to me as well as Irma. So it's a leap, but there's always a common thread. So you know what I mean? Yeah.
I remember when we would present a new tune to her, especially towards the end, she was just, wow, Sean really gets me. Which was amazing to hear her.
Well, I remember her saying, "Oh, I see he's been listening."
Oh, that's cool.
I remember her saying that.
I like that.
Made me, you talking about that made me think of one of the cool things too that happened in this project. I think is that we had written the music, and then we gave it to you, and you wrote the lyrics, and you demoed it up, and you're a great singer yourself. You're even probably on some of the tracks, maybe still buried in there, but the way your phrasing, aside from the lyrics, your phrasing on some of the lyrics, I think was just inherently different than something that Irma would do. And then there were times I think that Irma went to what you did because she listened to it,
Yeah.
So I think that was like really cool that maybe she would have done it a little bit different, but I think in the process, some of those songs she did try to hit it the way that demo was and the way she heard it and the way that she heard you do it, or in some cases, Jelly would do the demos for the songs. She would come do a version of what you did, sort of bring it to Irma a little bit.
A lot of the phrasing stayed from what I initially demoed.
Exactly.
Which is really gratifying, too, on top of just getting, validation from her saying, I know you've been listening. You can really see from my perspective. I mean, there's no... How could you get a better compliment or and maybe a feeling of accomplishment in this in the music world than to get like her blessing to say that you can tap into or you can address my perspective in a way that she had to let me know. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful.
And maybe there was some sort of musicality thing that she just sort of got to put in her bag from hearing you and the way these songs are phrased.
Maybe she took something from this.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying, she's a very active musician still playing music. So it's like,
You're right.
I wouldn't have sung it this way, but this is the way I'm going to do it here. And then it becomes ingrained or something.
So the elasticity, it goes both ways. It's like, this was presented to me as an opportunity to write from, somebody who had hits out during civil rights, and like way before my birth, she was active, and so now I'm stepping into trying to write in a perspective of a person that's been around and done it and has tons of track record in this game,
Right.
And then I never looked at it that way. It's like, we all grow, and if somebody's phrasing would be counterintuitive to you, but you still roll with it, then that's, you never stop growing. You never master this despite being 80.
It was great to watch her do that, because there were moments when we'd hear your demo and we'd be like, I wonder how she's going to sing that or something, but then she just would crush it.
Yeah. Yeah, Jelly helped a lot with that, too.
Yeah, just to back up.
She kind of bridged the gap.
A lot of just so people know, the process was like Sean would present us, and then we'd narrow it down, and then we'd get Jelly to come and sing it, because we just thought Jelly it'd make Irma have an easier time to hear her own voice within it, and Jelly would sing it in a way that Irma might.
Yeah,
but Jelly did the same thing where she would have to learn your phrasing.
Yeah, no, along the way,
for sure.
I didn't lose a lot. It was just like the tone and her to hear a female voice and somebody.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that.
It made
like a lot of the phrasing stayed, because I felt like it worked. It wasn't so much about I wanted people to sing it in the way I sung it. I felt like it worked.
No, it's important.
As long as it stayed in that ballpark, I was like, I think that works with the flow of the song and that it serves it,
I think like in Lady Liberty, Irma would have never hit that line. This ain't a castle in the sand that you could just come and knock down with your hand.
Yeah.
That's kind of like your hip hop background.
Bars. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's little bars in there, like.
Oh, she would leave way more space. Yeah, she's used to. Yeah,
that was just like an example that came in my mind of like,
and Puppet on a String, she's spitting bars on that.
Yeah.
24 carat. Yeah,
exactly.
Give a shout out. That's Boyfriend and Princess Shaw.
Same thing with her, exactly.
Boyfriend had that same,
And we love that. We wanted
expanding her horizon.
We wanted to bring her, not make it sound totally. And those are two exact examples of where we kind of brought her a little modern. Pushed her and
spitting bars.
Yes, we had Irma spitting bars up in here.
That's great.
And I mean, you were here for a couple of the sessions. It was fun to work with her, but we had to push her here and there, and sometimes it was a little tense. But
because you don't want to step on toes of a legend.
There were moments, I'll say right now, where Rob and I, when we just the beginning of it, where we're like, we're not sure if we're still going to be her friend after this.
She's going to be like one.
We are though, which is great.
One and done.
Yeah, she always seemed extremely happy after hearing the final result. But we had to push her, and who are we? We're like in our 50s, you're in your 40s maybe. And like you said, she was making hit songs before we were even.
We were in diapers and a crying.
Yeah, I mean, that line is
beforehand,
could be directed right at us, But, we knew it was our job to make her, push her, and try to get her to sound as good as she can. And when she would come back and she was just like, I could tell she's like, okay, all this work is worth it,
Yeah. And she's got a catalog.
Right.
So it's like, I want to give you guys credit for being like, let's see if we can get Irma to roll with us like 50-50, We want Irma but being Irma, but you also want to like, have the sound of Galactic and maybe have a little more of a contemporary edge or something. We wanted to be us and then her be her. Instead of like you said, gumbo this and crawfish that, and yellow moon this and all that.
There was definitely an easier route we could have gone, which was either redoing a lot of her catalog or just giving in to the cliches. But we definitely
the fact that she rolled with this with us on that, just stretched her thing out.
It did.
It felt like she started trusting the process as we started moving forward.
Yeah.
She would hear the songs. She started meeting you, and songs were coming back with things that you guys had talked about, and she liked the way it was sounding. So it just seemed like she sort of started trusting the process. Maybe she was a little skeptical at first, but
right once you get a couple under the belt, though, it creates a sense of momentum. Like
and now hopefully she's proud of it. I think she is.
Yeah, she seems like it. I mean. We're still friends.
Yeah.
She sounded killer, too.
And she calls it her record, which I think is a feather in our cap. I think if she didn't like it, she'd be like, oh, yeah, this is your record. Like, she's taking ownership of it. I think that's a good sign,
Yeah.
You guys have fun performing live, the songs?
Yeah, man. I mean, when she's on stage, it presents a new set of nerves to me, of nervousness, just like... Then performing with just the band and her presence on stage is really, you feel it.
Yeah, you want to take care of her and like, I want to support this and not mess up. And
I don't want her to I don't want to mess up.
That's good that you still have that though. That sense of like commitment to, bringing quality and being nervous about. And it shows you care,
Yeah, well...
You got to have a little bit of nerve.
Man, at Jazz Fest, when she stood up and started dancing, that was like a goosebump moment, man. Like she had a smile on her face. She was enjoying herself. It was like everything that we talked about. Like Irma, I assume, doesn't really care about exposure gigs. She just... Or even, I'm not going to say she doesn't care about money, but, it's just one of those things. She only does really what she wants to do for the love of music. She doesn't have to go out and play shows anymore,
Yeah.
So it's her choice of just, I enjoy doing this. She always says in interviews, I'm not retiring, so that's just her life is doing music. So, to see somebody her age who's been around doing all these shows and records and, really enjoying herself in the moment. There was no faking when she stood up and started smiling, giving a little grandma dance. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think she's doing it for the love of it and continuing it because it really fulfills her. And her purpose is in there,
Yeah.
It is, yeah. I mean, she's straight up told us that. Like, I don't need to do this. I'm good.
Yeah.
And it is amazing. And another funny thing I was thinking in our sessions was, I don't know if you were there that day, Sean, when when Irma first showed up to record with us, we spruced up the studio a bit. We got some flowers.
Hired a cleaner for our studio.
Yeah, we cleaned the studio.
The Queen's coming. The Queen's coming.
We bought some scented candles, some expensive scented candles. Had them around the room, setting a vibe.
Royal up in here.
Yeah, it was like we were trying to. Our first date or something with somebody, we made it look
trying
real
to make
nice.
a good impression. I want them to come back.
And we're working with her, and maybe it was just some of her frustrations of getting her head into our process. But there was this one moment where I think she was just extremely frustrated, and let me know if I'm saying this right, Ben. But I think she was. We ended a take, and she was just like, "Well, these candles." They're eating up all my oxygen down here. You need to put out these candles. We just had 2 small candles burning. So of course we I
the irony of it all. You're like, she's
go
gonna love the
downstairs,
candles.
Put out the candles. Okay, the oxygen's back in the room, Miss Irma. Let's do it again. But
and then she gave a really good take. I think in most situations, and I hate to say it, but it really is the case with a lot of musicians. You're a producer. You work with musicians.
Yeah.
Sometimes when musicians get pissed. And they get this kind of fuck you attitude. That's when you get the goods.
Yeah.
Even if that is when you get the goods.
Right, especially in an aggressive genre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're like thrash or rock or hip hop or something like that with an aggression. But even in
She did.
like R&B or whatever. It's like that type of edge comes off.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
a
I was-
certain-
Because
like,
more it's like because you
tone.
kind of develop. I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna, just like I don't know. As you're reaching in a different place. I'm not saying it's out of anger. It's partially frustration, but it's also just like not giving a fuck.
Yeah, there's a certain execution.
Yeah.
that comes from being a little stern and being
Yeah.
a little edgy like that.
Mhm. And that we tried to get that out
So
of
we
her.
might have got the best take after that
Yeah.
candles incident.
Maybe that's a producer trick. Everybody do that. Burn candles.
Yeah.
Suck the oxygen out of the room. And have that moment.
Have a dog walking around and stuff.
She did though. It was
But to
always
back up, there were other moments where she certainly wasn't frustrated or upset and gave great
No.
performances too. So
Oh no! I mean, there was many times we'd look at her and she was down there with her head smiling, eyes closed, singing the song, just feeling
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
I think there was obviously more of those than in the frustrating moments, but
yeah.
There was
Hey.
one point we weren't even rolling, and she was kind of singing down there. We were just loving it. We were like, oh, she's just vibing
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, she was
We're
just
like,
enjoying the
we
moment
should
of
record
music.
this.
Yeah,
She was just cutting up and singing along to it. Or at one point, I don't think any music was on. She was just singing.
well, Sean, like what? Just for our listeners here, we love to shine a focus on you because you're so helpful and contributed so much to this. What are some of your like resume pieces out of this record that you've done over the last decade or so since you've been a songwriter that
Well,
kind of inform people where you come from?
namely, I've been working with the Soul Rebels. I'm working with them again now.
Cool.
But yeah, I did quite a few joints with them. Got to sing, got to produce, play some instruments, do some songwriting. Got some people to re-sing. Like I said, PJ re-sung one of the songs I did, so I got to kind of experience a lot of facets of the music. I don't want to say it because it's not confirmed. The paperwork is not done, but
Know
there's
what
a
you-
very big rapper that's
Killer.
got a production of mine where I'm actually singing it and produce a beat.
Sick.
But that's really, I'm excited to hear about that and get back to
Yeah.
getting some paperwork on that so I can talk
We'll
my shit.
we'll do a little follow up later.
Well, I'm actually working on my own record right now.
Cool.
Yeah, I got a couple songs done.
Awesome.
I'm gonna show you guys those.
Killer.
Let y'all hear them.
Didn't you do like an Eric Lindell record?
Oh yeah. I did,
You did
a
some-
record with an EP with Lindell. I think back in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you did. Haven't you worked with Manny Fresh on some stuff?
I worked with Manny Fresh a lot. Yeah, done some stuff with 2 Chainz. I think we were on 2 Chainz record, and we got involved with a record with Drake, and Wayne was on it. And I've worked with him on a bunch of other stuff, other R&B artists, other rappers. I was more behind the scenes with it though, just kind of helping the process. It ended up being like produced by Manny Fresh, but
You were-
I was intrinsic in like playing instruments and lending a hand here, helping write hooks,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, man. Great.
You leaving out your dad? Don't you play in a band with your dad?
Oh yeah, can't leave out the
Pops,
OG.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, so when I first moved down here, I joined my dad's blues band, and I ended up running into Mem Shannon.
Cool.
Mem Shannon hired me, and he was like, I hope you got your passport. And I was like, why, what we got? And he's like, I got some gigs in Australia and New Zealand. This was like about 4 months after I moved down here. So I was pretty excited. I was like, wow, I got a real bass gig that I get to do some international festivals. And I never left the country until I flew to Auckland, New Zealand.
Oh wow, that was your
in
first.
2002, I think.
Are
Yeah.
all the flights this long?
Yeah,
leaving
yeah,
the
isn't that
country?
great? Yeah. That gave me a whole perspective on it. Like, good Lord, I slept, I woke up, I slept, and I woke up.
Yeah.
We're still in the air. Yeah, so we're in Qantas, and we get there, and then we bounce around. We do a puddle jump to Australia, and that was a really cool time in my life. I was about 22. And I didn't have any strings attached to anything. I was living in a very small apartment. It was like $450 a month.
Yeah.
It was
Those are
a
the
simple
days.
time. I had
Yeah.
my little digi design in there, making my beats and doing everything.
Yeah.
But
And
that
then-
was a really cool, eye-opening moment that, like, wow, I just hit the ground running. I'm in a band traveling. I get to, see different sides of the earth and perform in huge festivals and stuff like that. And then at the same time, I was like, wow, I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy, I moved down here and it just worked out.
Yeah. It's pretty magical in that way. I mean, not saying it works for everybody like that, but I think Ben kind of had a similar experience. How soon were you in the Little Rascals after you moved here?
Yeah, right away. That's why I stayed.
And, I moved and created a band down here, but it was like, still, the story is pretty common, and it's a pretty magical city in that way. It's amazing.
You can get adopted and
look at it. We're all transplants, and
Yeah,
and
I'm super grateful
we're
to work with Irma.
And then now, look at us,
crazy.
Here, all from not from here, and we're fortunate and blessed to be able to work with the Queen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think that's a good wrap. Good chat with Sean here today.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
opportunity to work with you and her. And
Crushed it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to doing
Put
another
that-
project with you, man.
put that out to the world. That was great.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much, bud.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Wow, that was so fun. Always love hanging out with Sean.
He's the best.
Dup ass.
You know that we do share the same pair of glasses.
Oh my god, it's so weird. I would never think that because you guys are such different looks.
But I have to admit, I copped them from him, and he was kind enough to tell me. I was like, "Bro, those are the coolest glasses." And he's like, "Yeah, Zulu." And then I went on Zulu, and I bought them, and I had to call him and tell him, "Man, do you mind?"
Man, Stanton did that to me with the black jacket.
Yeah.
That he wears all the time. I can't wear mine anymore.
Anyway, sorry, and thanks, Sean. You're just the coolest, man.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Thank you for all your contributions on the record. Let's talk about the next one, man. This one, the Jesse Hill, Naturally. The packaging alone is.
We'll let them discover that.
Yeah.
But it's a special jacket that we
Right.
hope you enjoy. But Jesse Hill, for those of you who might not know, had some hits in New Orleans. Most recognizably, Oop Oop Doo.
Mm-hmm.
Go Google it if you don't know it.
Yeah, classic hit.
R&B, great from New Orleans. Also happens to be Trombone Shorty's grandfather.
Yeah, really cool. And this record's just really quirky and funky and soulful, and
It's different.
it's very different.
It's different for what he did in most of his career.
Yeah, and it's really rare. I really wasn't aware of it until was it Lefty from Euclid had put it on our radar.
So via Alex McMurray, via Jonathan Fraley.
Oh wow! Oh, those people are all.
This is,
aware
I
of
think,
it.
a record that hangs out at Alex McMurray's house that he pulls out to be like, "Have you ever heard this? You want to hear something really awesome and cool?" And
Yeah.
it's like, "What? That's Jesse Hill?"
Yeah, it is. And now you subscribers could do the same thing to your friends.
Yeah,
You could be that cool person that pulls out that record.
yeah. It's not available on Spotify or Apple or DSPs, and it's the first reissue since it was originally released in 1971.
Yeah, and hope you guys enjoy it. It's really, we had a great time listening to it.
Yeah. Do you want to give the pitch out?
I mean, they've heard it, but just join the club, man. You're not gonna be bummed.
Yeah, Father's Day is coming up, and
Man, it makes a great
birthdays.
present for father. That New Orleans loving father you got.
Music loving father.
Yeah, bam,
There
done.
you go. Easy breezy. All right, well, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, until next time. Thanks, guys.